Okay, so in this video I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favourite films from 1977. There's no real actual definitive list. These are just my personal favourite films from this year. And it's all in accordance with IMDb, all the release dates and that. So, that being said, I want to talk about some honourable mentions from this year that I saw. So, first off, I've got two Disney films, The Rescuers and The Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Just sort of harmless Disney movies. Really, nothing really too special about them, but they're just harmless films. Next up, I've got The Duelists, one of Ridley Scott's early films. George Romero's Martin, which is about a guy who pretty much comes to this town and thinks he's a vampire and starts attacking people. Really quite striking and abrupt ending to this one. Definitely worth a watch. John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever, absolute staple disco movie from the 70s. Richard Attenborough's A Bridge Too Far, war epic with an absolute stellar cast. And finally Sorcerer, a great sort of thriller about the transportation of dynamite. Definitely worth checking out. Okay, so they're my honourable mentions. I'm going to get straight into the list now with number 10 for me, which is Paul Verhoeven's foreign film Soldier of Orange. Sort of follows a group of students in the Netherlands right before the start of World War II and their role in the war. Great sort of character movie and a great war movie as well, if you're into that. So that's my number 10. Number 9 for me is Robert Altman's Three Women. Pretty similar to his last film, Nashville. There's no real sort of plot to the film. It follows the events in the lives of these three women. Pretty much takes place at a spa for old people and the apartment that they live in. Really hard to decipher a plot and explain what happens, but it sort of really just captures their endeavours and the things they're currently going through at that moment in their lives. Doing a bit of research in this, found out as well that Robert Altman sort of based the film on a dream he had, which I found really fascinating. But quite an underrated film as well. So coming in at number 8 for me is an early Wes Craven film, and that's The Hills Have Eyes. Really quite creepy film about this family that are travelling pretty much in a camper van, an RV, and it breaks down. And where it breaks down is pretty much inhabited by sort of mutant cannibals that end up attacking them. Really good, unsettling scenery, and the voices of some of the mutants just like really get under your skin and creep you out. And some great action scenes as well. So number 7 for me is The Goodbye Girl. Really sort of underrated romantic comedy, this film, about Richard Dreyfuss. Richard Dreyfuss actually won the Academy Award for Best Actor in this film. Sort of about these two people who sort of end up living together by accident. The woman's boyfriend in the film ends up leaving the apartment to go to shoot a film in Italy, and he sublets it to Richard Dreyfuss's character, who ends up living with this woman and her daughter. and he's an aspiring actor from Chicago, working in New York, and the film sort of focuses on their relationship and how it grows and how they fall in love, and then he ends up getting a job in Seattle, and she's worried that he might leave and never come back, but he leaves her guitar, and which is a prized possession of his, and he says, "You can come with me," but she declines. So that's how he ends up leaving her the guitar, and so she knows he'll always come back to him eventually. Yeah, really good film. So coming in at number 6 for me is David Lynch's Eraserhead. To describe this movie, it's almost like it's nightmarish and fever dreamish. It's so abstract and strange, and it's almost like a sort of body horror film. The way to describe it is or talk about the plot is sort of the main character in it has to look after his deformed son, and the child in it is just it's one of the creepiest things ever, and so unsettling and so strange and surreal. It's one that just has to be seen to be believed. It's so nightmarish in its imagery, but it's a fantastic watch. So coming in at number 5 for me is Roger Moore's third James Bond outing in The Spy Who Loved Me. Possibly the most competently made James Bond film from Roger Moore, in my opinion, out of the 7 that he did. The villain in it is pretty much it's called Strongberg, who pretty much wants to sort of create an Atlantis-style utopia where he sort of wants to start to breed his own sort of race of humans, his own Garden of Eden, pretty much. The film also introduces us to the villain Jaws as well for the first time, played by Richard Kiel, who's just doesn't have a line in the film but is so entertaining and has such a menacing presence. Great action set piece in this as well, with a shootout that takes place at a sort of submarine hangar. Yeah, really good James Bond film. So coming in at number 4 for me is Dario Argento's Suspiria. My favourite film by Dario Argento. One of the best horror films from the 70s. Absolutely creepy. Takes place at a ballet school in Germany. There's an American student we follow who's coming over to join the ballet. But as the film goes on, we sort of find out that the ballet isn't entirely what it seems to be, and it's sort of a front for a coven of witches. Which we find out as well that a coven of witches cannot exist without its leader. And the movie just it ends on such a strong note for me. It has one of the most horrifying scenes I've ever seen in a film towards the end, which involves a reanimated corpse. That is just imagery that will stick with you. Yeah, the score as well is done by Goblin. Fantastic score, fantastic music. The blood in this film is so vibrant as well. I don't know what it is about 70s films and the horror films from the 70s, but the blood they use in the makeup is just so vibrant and colourful. Yeah, there's never really a dull scene in this film. Yeah, just a fantastic film. my opinion. Coming in at number 3 for me is the Best Picture winner from this year. It also won Best Actress as well, and that's Woody Allen's Annie Hall. Really, really good and original romantic comedy. In my opinion, it sort of follows Woody Allen's character, who's trying to work out why his relationship didn't work with Annie Hall. And the movie just it cuts back and forth, and it looks at other couples as well. Sort of time jumps as well through the movie as well. Also, just a note to mention as well, young performances in this film as well from Christopher Walken and Jeff Goldblum. Yeah, definitely worth a watch if you've not checked it out. Yeah, really good film. So coming in at number 2 for me is Steven Spielberg's sci-fi epic, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Not a film I liked the first time I saw it. It didn't really do much for me. I wasn't really giving it my full attention, but the second time I saw it, it really grabbed me and really hooked me in. Richard Dreyfuss is also in this one as well. He's sort of playing a guy who has this encounter with... he has an extraterrestrial encounter, and it sort of changes his life. He gets... people start to worry about him, and he has like certain tics and visions over the extraterrestrials. But yeah, this type of film from Spielberg, his epics just they never suck and they're never boring. They're always good. But yeah, just a fantastic looking film. Looks great on Blu-ray as well. And you get the famous 5 notes, obviously, in this film as well. It's a really good one. If you've not checked it out, check it out. You won't regret it. It's great. So coming in at the number 1 spot from 1977 for me is a film that I surprisingly didn't know was actually nominated for Best Picture as well. It's another sci-fi film, possibly the most famous sci-fi film in the world. And that for me is Star Wars: A New Hope. Not the biggest fan of Star Wars growing up as a kid. It was sort of one of those things that was kind of shoved in my face a lot as a kid, and you should like this, and yeah, I didn't really see the hype around it. And then one day I just sort of flipped and was like, oh well, yeah, I'm finding an interest in it now. And I went to see it for the first time at the cinema. I went to see the 97 special edition release, and I just absolutely loved it. I had an absolute ball watching it as a kid. Was so excited to see the next one 2 weeks later. So if you haven't seen Star Wars, it's pretty much about a farm boy who just seeks more from life, seeks more adventure. He's a bit bored living with his aunt and uncle, and he knows there's more out there. There's more to see. He doesn't really know much about his father, but he sort of comes across Obi-Wan Kenobi, who's this ancient Jedi warrior who sort of tells him a little bit about his father, to say, you know, he was a good friend, but unfortunately he betrayed the Jedi and fell to the dark side, and there's not entirely some truth to what's being said there, but we find that out later on. And eventually our main character, Luke Skywalker, ends up joining the Rebel Alliance against the Empire, who's this pretty much giant unquestionable force that's sort of taken over the galaxy. And there's a great final battle in space that takes place towards the end. Just fantastic filmmaking. There's one point as well where Luke Skywalker asks Obi-Wan Kenobi about his father, and Alec Guinness, who plays Obi-Wan Kenobi, there's just a fantastic piece of acting from me where Luke asks him about his father and says, what happened? And you can just tell in his face that he's having to lie to Luke for his own benefit here, and it's just captured brilliantly in one look that he gives, where he says a young Jedi named Darth Vader betrayed us and murdered your father. So yeah, for me, it's one I've watched hundreds and hundreds of times growing up. Fantastic sci-fi film. One of, if not the best ever made. If you've not already seen it, which you probably have, just watch it again. It's great. It's one of those movies as well, I forget how good it is when I watch it. But cannot recommend that one enough. So yeah, that's my top 10 from 77. I'm going to hopefully be back soon with my top 10 from 1978. So yeah, thanks very much for watching, and take care.